On Saturday morning, the smell of cardboard dust and fresh paint wafted through the hallway. The building was unusually noisy. Movers shuffled along the carpet. The elevator doors slammed more frequently than usual. Jessica pulled back the curtain in the living room and saw a column of boxes being placed outside apartment 3B. One blue ribbon read, "Kitchen Fragile." Another, "Books." A temporary sign, printed out by the printer, was already hanging on the door of the new apartment. Alex K. Not the full name. "It looks like a move," she said without turning around. "Great," Daniel replied from the kitchen. "The only thing we need is another dog on this floor, or a drum set." He was pouring coffee into 2 mugs. His t-shirt bore the logo of the startup where he worked. Jessica found the t-shirt tired. She picked up a mug, took a sip, and looked out the window again. "Looks like there's no dog," she said. "Just the guy." "Yeah," Daniel replied. "We could use some time to sort through those boxes in the storage room today, too. I'll be back with the laptop this evening. We're launching on Tuesday." "It's clear." She placed her mug on the windowsill, stepped out into the hallway, and headed for the elevator. She just wanted to say hello, like a good neighbor. A man in his early 40s, wearing a beige jacket, stood on the landing. He was holding a box of kitchen utensils and trying to press the elevator button with his elbow. "Help?" Jessica asked. He turned and smiled quickly and businesslike. "If I may, I'm Alex. I'm just moving. Does the elevator like to rest here?" "Sometimes," she said. "Jessica, from 3A." Through the wall. "Nice to meet you," Jessica through the wall. She grabbed the bottom of the box. The elevator opened, and together they carried the cargo inside. The cabin was cramped and smelled of marker and plastic. "Have you been here long?" he asked. "It's been 5 years. It's a quiet building. The HOA sometimes goes crazy over parking, but it's livable. I came from Brooklyn. It's absolutely impossible there," Alex said. "I decided to change the neighborhood. Work is nearby. Well, and I needed a change of scenery." The doors swung open. They stepped out onto the ground floor, onto the street, toward the van. 2 guys in gloves were smoking by the back doors. "2 more for the kitchen," Alex said to them. They nodded. "Do you have a lot?" Jessica asked. "Much less than before. I got rid of a lot. It's easier to start with a clean slate when the closets are uncluttered." She nodded. They loaded another box, returned to the elevator, and went up. On the landing, Alex unlocked 3B. Inside was a bare living room with new white walls and a dull light from a ceiling lamp. The windows looked out onto the street, where yellow leaves lay in piles along the curbs. "I can get you some trash bags," Jessica said, "and a knife. Moving without a knife is torture. I have it somewhere, but I can't find it. If it's not too much trouble, I'd be grateful." She returned to 3A. Daniel was standing by the sink, staring at his phone. "Where have you disappeared to?" "I'm helping my neighbor with his boxes. I'll bring him a knife and some bags. Just don't give away our best one. Take the green one, the dull one." "I'll take a normal one," she said calmly, "and I'll return it." "Okay, I'm on Zoom in an hour, so if anything happens, keep quiet." She grabbed a wooden-handled knife, a couple of rolls of bags, and went back out. Alex was already arranging boxes along the walls. "You saved me," he said as she held out the knife. "Everyone has an IKEA knife, and everyone loses it." "Everyone," Jessica agreed. She cut the tape on one of the boxes. Alex pulled out a stack of paper-wrapped plates. "Do you work from home?" she asked. "It's funny. I'm a radiologist, half the time in the clinic, the other half reviewing images remotely. I have a new contract at a medical center on Wooster Street. What about you?" "I manage marketing for a chain of small fitness studios. It's more logistics and spreadsheets than posters. The only thing I bring home is my laptop. So you know how to convince people to pay for season tickets." "I know how to calculate conversion," she chuckled. He chuckled too. The conversation flowed easily, without the pauses that make you check your watch. Jessica helped unpack the coffee machine. Alex asked her to tell him where the nearest store with decent milk was. Trader Joe's on Madison, she said. Or Green Market on the corner, it's more expensive. I'll buy you some coffee when I get all this hooked up, he replied, looking straight ahead. Not today. Today, I'm a prisoner of boxes. Let's see how you fight. She returned to her room. In apartment 3A, next to the entrance, stood the same someday box. She and Daniel had carried it from apartment to apartment and never unpacked it. She ran her hand over the lid, then went to the kitchen. He's a normal guy, she said. Alex, a radiologist. Great, Daniel replied, not looking up from the screen. A doctor next door, just in case. His comment wasn't malicious, but it was detached. He had that voice when he was switching between tasks, and his wife would appear as just another item on the list. Do you want me to make you an omelet? She asked. I'll grab something later. I won't have time for the rally. She opened the refrigerator, glanced at the containers of prepared food they'd ordered for the week, and closed the door. The household items were arranged in a neat line. The containers, the calendar on the fridge, the bills in a clear folder. She caught herself listening in the hallway. The boxes rattled again, and Alex's voice could be heard saying to the movers, "Thanks, guys." After lunch, they went to the laundry room in the basement. It was empty. Jessica loaded whites, Daniel darks. He stood typing on his phone. I'm in the office for 3 days next week, he said. Monday will definitely be late. Okay, I'm at my mom's on Tuesday. She asked me to help her with the medicine. Fine. He looked up, as if to check. Then he looked down again. We were planning to go to the ocean in October, she recalled. Let's discuss it tomorrow. I'm afraid it won't work out. I'm afraid too, she said quietly. That won't work, she repeated. Not because of work, but because we haven't done anything together for a long time now, except for the to-do list. He looked at her and hid the phone a little more slowly. You're right, he said. I'll try. Let's look at a place to live this evening, something simple. Let's. In the evening, the floor smelled of freshly brewed coffee. Alex, wearing a gray t-shirt and jeans, was relaxing in the doorway of his apartment, leaning against a box and holding a mug. He noticed Jessica with a bag of trash. Want to try it? I finally connected the machine. Not now, thank you. We're having dinner. Just a minute then. I found a letter for you in the mailbox. The postman missed again. He handed her an envelope with the logo of the clinic where her father was being treated. She took it and thanked him. Alex nodded and, before closing the door, added, If I make any noise, knock. I'm not a fan of parties, but 2 people from the department are coming today and will help with the furniture. I see. Don't worry. At dinner, she and Daniel ordered Thai food. He sluggishly sampled his rice and answered messages. She told him about the letter from the clinic, saying her father was getting tested the following week. Daniel said he'd text his father-in-law, good luck. They agreed to go to the market on Saturday and buy apples for a pie. As they were clearing the table, a hammer clanged behind the wall. Then came a short, male laugh and Alex's voice, Bring it here. Everything was within the norm for a house where someone was moving, but Jessica's pulse jumped for a second as if her name had been called. She stood holding a plate while the water ran into the sink. I'm going to the office, Daniel said. I need to finish my report. Are you going to bed late? Let's see. She turned on the TV, scrolled through the news feed, and watched a segment on a talk show discussing insurance prices. Then she turned it off. A notification from a neighbor's chat popped up on her phone. Welcome Alex to 3B. Someone had already written underneath. We're having a Halloween fundraiser, leaving a jar in the hallway. Jessica liked the post but didn't comment. She thought she and Daniel could do some home improvement. The entryway downstairs could use a rug. At 10, she went to the pantry for a paper towel and stumbled upon that same someday box. She unpacked the lid without thinking. Inside were old photographs, postcards, cafe cards with the addresses of friends they hadn't seen in a while. She pulled out a photo. She and Daniel on the beach, laughing, holding plastic cups. He had more hair than now. She had less worries on her face. She put the photo back and closed the box. Someone knocked on door 3B in the hallway. Alex opened it and said, "Hey, come in." Then more voices, soft music from her phone. It was late, but it wasn't annoying. It was more a reminder that someone was living nearby. Jessica caught herself straining to hear the words. It wasn't polite, so she pulled herself together and returned to the bedroom. Daniel sat on his bed with his laptop. Lines of code, graphs, and chats flashed on the screen. "Aren't you tired?" she asked. "Just a little longer. You lie down if you want. Let's agree. Lunch with Mary and Tom on Sunday. They say we're disappearing." "Agreed," he said expressionlessly. She turned off the light in the living room, checked the door was locked, and lay down. The voices behind the wall were now quieter. Her eyes lingered for a long time. Everyday things swirled in her head: who to call, what to buy, what report to submit. And then another new thought: what Alex's voice sounds like when he talks on the phone, and how he laughs when he's genuinely funny, not just being polite. On Sunday morning, Jessica went downstairs to get coffee at Green Market. The owner, an Indian man in his 50s, gave her a 50-cent discount, as usual, for being a good neighbor. On her way back, she saw a notice on the notice board by the elevator. "Neighbors, anyone with a drill and a level, Alex from 3B. A few minutes of help would be greatly appreciated. I'll cover beer and pizza." A post-it note from a student in 4th grade was already posted nearby. "Can do it after 2. As she was climbing the stairs, she bumped into Alex in the hallway. He was carrying a flat box with a shelf. "Good morning," he said. "Do you have a level lying around?" "No, but my husband seems to have one. In the pantry? Do you want to hang a shelf? I want to do at least something neat in this apartment. I can ask when he wakes up." "No need to disturb," Alex said. "I'll catch the student from the 4th floor. You're getting used to it quickly. Otherwise, things will remain in boxes. I've been through this before." She briefly considered asking when, but he was the first to change the subject. "By the way, if you ever need a doctor's opinion based on your x-rays, I can recommend a good general practitioner. I don't treat throat or heart problems, but I know where they won't push you into unnecessary tests." "Thank you. My father has tests soon. We're just thinking about who to see next. If you want, write to me later," he said, lowering his voice slightly. "I'll send you the contact information." "All right." At noon, she and Daniel drove to Mary and Tom's in Westchester. On the way, Daniel talked about a bug they'd caught overnight, about how some module wasn't handling the load. Jessica listened and nodded, but part of her attention was lost out the window. The trees along the highway were already turning yellow. She found herself telling her husband about Alex, about the radiologist, about the coffee, about the shelf. "Do you always go into such detail about your neighbors?" Daniel asked, without a hint of mockery, rather with mild surprise. "No," she answered honestly. "He just turned out to be polite and normal. You know how rare that is in homes." "Okay, well, it's good there aren't any drug addicts on this floor," he said. "We're lucky. We would be lucky if we talked more often about more than just your work and my bills." "I'm trying," he said after a pause. "Really?" Mary and Tom's room smelled of cinnamon and parking wax. Tom was cleaning the garage. They talked about children, schools, and the rise in real estate prices again. Mary asked when they were expecting a baby, and Jessica smiled and said they weren't sure yet. Daniel joked that they needed to get the company's automation up and running first, then have kids. They laughed, but the joke hung in the air. "You look tired," Mary said as the men went into the garage. "Is everything okay?" "Dan works, and I'm always busy. We haven't gone anywhere or done anything for fun in a while." "Go to Hudson for the weekend," Mary suggested. "Get a simple hotel and just wander around. You used to love that." "Let's see." On the way home, they remained silent longer than usual. There was an empty pocket in the parking lot near the entrance. Jessica unloaded the bags of apples and milk. The Halloween collection jar sat on the notice table in the hall, as promised. Inside were dollar bills and a check signed AC. The new neighbor isn't greedy, Daniel said. It seems not. That evening, Jessica took out the pie pan. The kitchen was warm as the oven preheated. She peeled apples and sprinkled cinnamon. Daniel came over and put his arms around her shoulders. "It smells great," he said. "Sorry, I'm always working. I know you're tired of it." "I'm not perfect either," she replied. "I get nervous when you're on the phone, and I get lost in my own affairs." "Let's try to get out to the ocean, even if it's just for a day," he said. "Next week. No promises, just give it a try." "Let's try." They ate the warm pie and put the dishes in the sink. There was another shuffling sound behind the wall. By 10 o'clock, everything was quiet. Jessica washed her hands and turned off the kitchen light. Before going to bed, she glanced out into the hallway. Alex's rug held a neat row of sneakers and a box labeled records. She wondered what kind of records he had. Jazz, classical, but she retreated into her apartment. That night, she woke up to a flashing notification on her phone from a neighbor's chat. Someone asked if anyone had an extra TV adapter. Alex replied, "I'll look for one tomorrow. Thanks to everyone who helped today." She felt the urge to type, "You're welcome." She locked the screen and put the phone on the nightstand. On Monday morning, they met again by the elevator. Jessica was wearing a blazer with a laptop in her bag. Alex was wearing a jacket with a clinic badge on a lanyard. "Good morning," he said. "I promised to send you the therapist's contact information. I'll write to you this evening." "Thank you. How is the night? Not too noisy of me?" "Everything is fine. I slept well." "Glad to hear it." The elevator arrived, and they entered. At the bottom, they each went their separate ways. Jessica caught her reflection in the glass of the front door and paused for a second. She looked ordinary, work-like. She walked to her car. The day at work dragged on. A meeting about a new advertising campaign, budgeting for November, a call from a franchisee in Florida who couldn't understand why his campaigns weren't generating enough leads. She spoke calmly, jotting down questions in a notebook, and promised to return with spreadsheets. At lunchtime, she went outside, bought a salad, and ate it on a bench. She texted her father that she'd pick him up for tests on Wednesday. He responded with a short, "Okay." At 3 o'clock, returning to her desk, she suddenly longed to see the Alex K printed on the door again. This longing struck her as odd. She placed her phone on the desk, turned off notifications, and opened her spreadsheet. That evening, when she returned home, there was a small, unstamped envelope in their mailbox, just her name on a sticker. Inside was the family doctor's business card and a note. "This doctor is attentive and doesn't push you too hard. If it doesn't work, I'll tell you about other options. A." She smiled and tucked the note into her wallet. Daniel was already sitting in the living room with his laptop. He looked up. "How is your day?" "It's fine. I got the contact information for a doctor for my father from a neighbor." "Convenient," he said. "Tell him thanks. I'll pass it on." She went into the kitchen and got out a pot for pasta. The water took a long time to heat. Behind the wall, it was quiet. She savored this new level of silence and listened to how their familiar things fit within it. She wished she and Daniel could at least make it to the ocean. She closed her eyes and imagined the road, the wind, the sound of the water. No, not sound, just a steady sound that occupied space. Then she opened her eyes and salted the water. When they had eaten and washed the plates, Daniel said, "I finally booked a hotel for one night in Point Pleasant for Saturday. If they don't cancel the release." "Thank you," she said. "I appreciate it." "Me too." They turned off the light in the kitchen. They left a nightlight on in the living room. Jessica briefly pressed her palm to the cold wall between 3A and 3B. It was quiet on that side. She removed her hand, turned off the nightlight, and went into the bedroom. Monday dragged on without any surprises, but in the evening, it felt as if someone had moved the furniture around the apartment, leaving empty spaces. Daniel returned late and went straight to the office without taking off his shoes. He took off his jacket, hung it over the back of a chair, and opened his laptop. Jessica put some canned soup on the stove, sliced some bread, and called out, "Will you eat with me?" 5 minutes, he answered without looking. 15 minutes later, he came out, sat down, tried the soup, and immediately reached for his phone. The screen flashed notifications from Slack. "Just a second," he said. "No seconds," Jessica said calmly. 10 minutes of a proper dinner. Then do what you need to do." "Okay," he turned the phone face down. "Sorry, nerves." "I see." They finished their meal in silence. The lock on 3B clicked in the hallway, and footsteps were heard. Jessica caught herself holding her breath and was immediately embarrassed by her own reaction. She collected the plates and went to the sink. "I'm driving on Saturday," Daniel said from the doorway of his office. "We can leave early." "Okay, I'll take a list of questions for the doctor for my father. Don't forget, the lab is on Wednesday morning." "I'll set a reminder." The next morning, the internet at their home started acting up. Jessica's video call froze, and charts wouldn't load in her spreadsheets. She turned off the camera and rebooted the router. Nothing. Someone in the neighbor's chat wrote that their ISP was down. 5 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. "Sorry," Alex said. "Is your internet down too?" "Yes. I'm writing a report, and my screens are blank. I have a remote shift in an hour. Plan B is to set up a backup modem. If that doesn't work, I'll have to go to the clinic. I have a mobile hotspot. It's not perfect, but it'll handle documents. I wouldn't want to waste resources," he said. "Okay, I'll try the modem. If it doesn't work, I'll knock." "Okay." 20 minutes later, he reappeared with a small router in his hand. "I need one part. Do you happen to have a short coaxial cable? Mine's sitting in some boxes, and time is running out." Jessica pulled a box of wires out of the closet. She found the right cable. Alex smiled. "You're saving me for the second time." "Return it the same day," she said. "I sometimes need it myself." "Certainly." Half an hour later, her home internet was working again. Her ISP had come back to life. She texted the neighbor's chat, "It's back," and almost immediately received a private message from Alex. "The modem didn't work. I'm going to the clinic. I'll return the cable this evening. Thanks again." That afternoon, Jessica had a meeting with the owners of two studios. They were connected from Florida and Texas, arguing about discounts and the free first week. One said clients wouldn't come without discounts, the other insisted discounts were killing margins. Jessica kept them on track. "Let's do it this way. We're testing two models in parallel. We need data for each. We'll decide in 2 weeks." "You always speak so evenly," the Texan remarked. "It must be hard for you with people like me." "I have a hard time with empty talk," she replied calmly. "It's easier when you have data." After the call, she went to the nearest cafe around the corner to order a salad and coffee. She ran into a familiar barista who always remembered her order. "How's your husband?" the barista asked, handing over a glass. "As usual," Jessica smiled. "Working hard." "Me too. I think it's so fashionable in Manhattan to live on a laptop." "It's not a fashion," Jessica said. "It's a habit." That evening, when she returned home, she found boxes and a stool unpacked by the elevator. Alex, wearing a sweater, was screwing a shelf to the wall. "Your cable," he said, noticing her. He held out the neatly coiled wire. "I paid for my modem at the clinic. It took half a day." "It's good that the matter is resolved," she replied. "The shelf is nice. I wish I could hang it straight. Without a level, I can just eyeball it." Jessica lifted the other edge, looked at the tile seams on the wall, and suggested, "A little higher on the right. Now it's level." "Wonderful. Thank you. How is your day?" "Arguments about discounts, budgets, tables." "Yours?" "Lots of pictures. One patient came in with a disc with the words, 'Do not open without popcorn,' written on the cover. I didn't laugh, but I noted it for stories. Otherwise, it's routine." They fell silent. Someone walked up the stairs outside, and a door slammed on the first floor. "I'm taking my dad for tests tomorrow," Jessica said. "We'll see what they say." "I'm keeping my fingers crossed," he replied. "If you need a ride or to wait in the lobby, just let me know." "Thank you, I can handle it." At home, Daniel had his headphones on again. During a pause between calls, she said, "I'm picking up my dad tomorrow morning. I won't wake you up. Tonight, can we go to that Mexican place on the corner?" "Let's do it on Friday," he replied. "There are edits tomorrow, so it'll be easier on Friday." Fine. She ate the rest of the pasta, texted her mom to let her know everything was going according to plan, and went to bed early. That night, she woke to a notification. The parking chat was arguing about someone else's car in the wrong spot. She turned off the sound, turned to the wall, and closed her eyes. The silence was thick, without any beeps, only the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. She was tempted to open her phone and scroll through photos of old trips, but she resisted. The morning at the lab passed without incident. The receptionist spent a long time searching for my father's card in the system, but finally found it. My father grumbled about his empty stomach. Jessica held his jacket, watched the ticker tape on the monitor, and asked if he was cold. He said everything was fine and complained about the parking. When it was over, she drove him home, leaving soup, medications, and a list of pill times on the table. On the way back, she stopped at the pharmacy, bought vitamins and a set of new hair ties. At home during her lunch break, she heard voices through the wall. Alex was talking to someone on the phone, his voice businesslike, without laughter. She caught the words contrast, retake, no, don't panic, and tuned out. In the kitchen, she got out a frying pan, reheated some chicken, and made some tea. A text from Daniel popped up on her phone. "Our call was moved to 7. I'll be back later. Order something." She typed, "Okay," deleted it, and wrote, "Okay, I have a short call too." She hit send. She looked at the screen for a few seconds and put the phone away. That evening, she met her friend Amy at a small bar on 86th Street. Amy worked as a probate lawyer, knew all the family tensions, and knew how to speak without unnecessary emotion. "You look tense," Amy said as they sat down. "What's going on?" "Everything's the same as always. We're kind of together, but it's like we're on a schedule. And we have a new neighbor. A normal guy. I catch myself paying attention to the little things. It scares me." "Are you doing something?" Amy asked. "I'm not talking about the neighbor. I'm talking about you." "We're going to the ocean this weekend. That's a step." "That's a step," Amy nodded. "Take more steps. And about your neighbor, stay away from situations where you might cross the line. Not because you're bad, but because you're tired." "Thank you," Jessica said. "I understand that." They discussed business and drank a glass of wine. Jessica didn't linger. By 9, she was already on the elevator. It was quiet on her floor. A small note hung by door 3B. "Do not disturb, video call in progress." By their door, there was a notice from the HOA about a scheduled fire alarm inspection. At home, Daniel was writing a letter to the team. She came over and touched his shoulder. "I'm back." "Great. How's Amy?" "Fine. Listen, I want us to talk for 20 minutes tomorrow, without phones. Just talk." "Okay," he said. 7:30. At 7:30. She went to the bathroom, washed off her makeup, came back, and sat on the edge of the bed. She heard Alex's door latch click in the hallway. He walked out, past their door, and down the stairs. Jessica looked at her watch. It was 10 to 10. They had a trip coming up on Saturday. There were 3 days left until Saturday. She decided she wouldn't look for excuses to talk through the wall. And at that very moment, she felt that decision itself become a topic she wanted to think about. The next morning, Daniel placed 2 pieces of toast and a cup of coffee on the table. "I've booked a table for Friday tomorrow," he said. "After dinner, we'll go home and get ready. I canceled 1 call. I want this to work out." "Thank you," she said. "I appreciate it." He nodded. They sat for a few minutes without speaking. It was better than empty remarks about the weather. Someone ran in the hallway, and the stairwell door slammed. Life at home went on as usual. Jessica looked at the calendar on the refrigerator and wrote Ocean Sat in Sharpie marker. Clear letters, no embellishments. Wednesday started for Daniel at 7 in the morning and immediately went downhill. The morning release slipped again, leaving him to deal with branches and conflicts. At noon, he barely managed to grab a burrito and ate it standing by the conference room window. By 6 in the evening, his colleagues had left, leaving him with two engineers, Mike and Priya, to fix yet another server overheating issue. "Take Sunday off," Priya said, looking at him over the screen. "You're not even funny in memes anymore." "Ocean on the weekend," he replied. "I'll try to reboot." By 9, it was clear they'd done everything they could. The rest would be left for the morning. Daniel turned off the monitor, put on his jacket, and before heading out, glanced at the calendar on his phone. Friday dinner, Saturday Point Pleasant. He found himself terrified of ruining it. He pressed the elevator button. The lobby was clean, the lamps bright. Fresh supermarket coupons lay on the table by the post office. He pulled out an ad and went up to the third floor. The elevator stopped, the doors opened, and he saw Jessica and Alex. Each held a glass. The smell of wine was wafting through the cabin, not strong, just distinct. "Hi," Jessica said. Her voice was even, a little tired. "We were sampling the neighbor's supplies. He had a lot of bottles from his old house." "We tested which cork holds better," Alex added. "The kitchen is all set up." Daniel stepped onto the landing, not lifting his glass. There was nothing illegal about it. Neighbors sometimes shared drinks. They stood close, but not too close. He noticed the trash bag by their door, the keys in Jessica's hand, and the green ribbon on one of the bottles. Details like these are the kind of thing you get stuck in when you don't know where to look. "Okay," he said. "Glad the kitchen's open. Jess, we'll be calling the team in 10 minutes. I'll be right back." "I'll be right back," she replied. "Alex, thanks for the glass. It's delicious." "I'll grab the container," Alex said, "and pour myself some water. Good night." He went to 3B. Jessica stayed for a second, as if checking to make sure she didn't drop anything. Then she went to 3A. Daniel followed. "It was a coincidence," she said. "The provider was acting up again, and I went in to ask how he handled the situation. He offered me a glass. I accepted. 5 minutes." "Okay," he nodded. "We have a call. Let's not be late." They took their seats. The call proceeded calmly, without incident. When the camera was turned off, Daniel went to the bathroom to wash his face with cold water. His face in the mirror was normal. He listened for a moment to the hallway. It was quiet. On Thursday morning, he left for the office early. For lunch, he met Mike at a nearby pancake house. They sometimes got coffee and eggs there. Mike shared his family news and complained about the daycare center, which had raised its prices. "How are you?" he asked, sipping his coffee. "You and Jess are going to the ocean. That's awesome." "Yes, I need to take a breather. Listen, Emma and I went through a tough time last spring. We went to a marriage counselor. I thought it was for the weak. Turns out it was just a way to adjust our language. Not an advertisement, but think about it." "We'll try to do it ourselves for now," Daniel said. "But thanks." That evening, he took the night shift to monitor the workload after the upgrade. He stayed in their office at home, setting out a thermos of tea and a plate of cookies. At 11:40, he decided to go for a walk. He threw on a sweatshirt, went out to the stairs, walked down, and back up. On their landing, he saw footprints on the rug, wet sneaker prints, with small stains from the spreading mud. A light rain was falling at the time. Their rug was clean by evening. The neighbor's door was locked. "Nothing special," he told himself. "It's home, people are just walking around." He wiped the rug with a paper towel to avoid dragging dirt into the house. He returned to his laptop. At 1 in the morning, the system started crashing, forcing him to spend an hour on a call. By 3 in the morning, everything had calmed down. The coffee was gone, and his head was buzzing with fatigue. He went into the kitchen and poured water. At that moment, a notification from a neighbor's chat popped up on his phone. "Someone left trash on the landing, please pick it up." The message had no address. A minute later, Alex replied, "Not me, I'm sleeping, but I'll check in the morning. Sorry if that sounded harsh." A minute later, the neighbor from number 4 texted that it was his bag. Daniel closed the chat. Small annoyances subtly add to the tension. He went into the bedroom, looked at Jessica sleeping, and returned to his laptop. Friday morning began with a brief squabble with the product manager. He was demanding that some of the logging be removed. Daniel held the line, coaxing, arguing. By midday, they had reached a compromise. At 2 o'clock, he saw a message from Jessica. "Dinner at 7:30, don't forget." He replied, "I'll be there." At 6, he stopped by the house to change. Jessica was already dressed, a simple black dress and a light jacket. They walked silently to the elevator. Cool weather and the hum of traffic greeted them downstairs. The restaurant by the window was crowded. They ordered tacos, rice, and a glass of beer each. "How's Dad?" Daniel asked. "We're waiting for the results. The doctor in Alex's note scheduled us for Monday. I'm grateful he gave me the contact information." "Of course," he said. They discussed their route for Saturday, packing their bags, and where to leave the car. They had dinner without conflict. On their way back, they walked up. On their floor, by the door to 3B, stood an empty wine box. The word "sorting" was written on the lid in marker. Daniel's gaze lingered and then quickly looked away. He didn't want to make connections in his head that might not be there. At home, Jessica began packing her bag. Daniel packed her chargers, t-shirts, and sweatshirt. He slipped a printed hotel reservation into his jacket pocket, just in case. He always did this, even when everything was on his phone. A bag of travel snacks lay nearby. "I'll set my alarm for 7, Jessica said. "We'll leave at 8, and we'll be there in time for lunch." "It will do." He went out into the hallway to take out the trash. As he returned, he heard soft music playing at Alex's. Not loud, just in the background. The door was closed. He inserted the key into the lock. In the key holder hung a keychain with their wedding date. He thought about what he'd always believed. If the house is tidy, then the relationship will be tidy too. But tidiness doesn't keep conversations going, no matter how much one might want it to. He woke up that night from a trivial sound like the refrigerator clicking. He lay on his side and listened to the house. All was quiet. Sleep wouldn't come. He picked up his phone, scrolled through the news, and closed it. The scene in the elevator came to mind. Wine, a smile, a home tasting. He mentally dismissed it. Adults sometimes drink with their neighbors. He was an adult. Jealousy is a bad advisor. They set out in the morning as planned. The road south was a smooth ribbon. The radio reported a traffic jam at the exit to Ticken. They drank coffee from paper cups and discussed where to stop on the way back. It was windy in Point Pleasant, but not cold. They walked along the waterfront, ate a slice of pizza, and stopped at a store selling cheap baseball caps. Jessica looked at the water. He looked at her profile. It felt right. They talked about simple things: music, movies, acquaintances. That evening, they checked into a small hotel with white walls and thin towels. Dinner was simple, unpretentious. They went to bed early. They returned home at lunchtime on Sunday. There were sneaker prints on their doormat again, still damp. The weather had been dry, so the prints looked odd. Daniel squatted down and ran his finger over them. The dampness was from cleaning the hallway, and it smelled of cleaning fluid. There was no need to look for a hidden meaning. He wiped the mat, opened the door, and brought in his bag. That evening, as they were unpacking, Jessica's phone rang. Alex 3B appeared on the screen. "I'll take it," she said. "Probably about the doctor." "Of course," he replied. She went out into the hallway to avoid talking in the kitchen. The conversation lasted a minute. Returning, she said. He confirmed the appointment time and parking address, and said good luck with Dad tomorrow. Fine. He nodded. Inside, everything was calm. But nearby lay the thought he'd been pushing aside all weekend. This whole chain of coincidences was coming together too easily. He told himself it was fatigue. He wouldn't cobble together a script from random scenes. No conclusions. Otherwise, the trip would have been a waste. "I'm going to go for a walk up the stairs," he said. 5 minutes. "Okay," she replied. He went out, walked down and up 2 flights of stairs to reset the alarm. On his way back, he stopped at the window on the stairs and took a deep breath. Then he returned home, set his calendar to Monday, Dr. 10:30, and turned off his phone. "Let's skip the laptops today," he said. "Let's just watch a movie." "Go ahead," Jessica smiled. They turned on an old film they both knew by heart. It didn't solve anything, but it gave them a common ground. He held on to that ground for as long as he could. Sunday night began peacefully. Daniel fell asleep quickly after watching a movie. He woke a couple of hours later to a dull sound like someone moving a chair in the neighboring kitchen. Then came a quiet laugh. Not loud, but confident, like the sound of people sitting close and not afraid to be heard. He looked at his watch, 1:12. The music was barely audible, a familiar melody, the same one Jessica had played in the car last summer. He lay there, listening, trying to figure out if it was music from his phone or just a coincidence. After about 30 seconds, everything went silent. He looked at the ceiling, then at the shadow of the closet, and closed his eyes. Sleep did not come. At 2:30, he picked up his headphones and turned on a white noise app. A few minutes later, silence returned. He fell asleep before his alarm went off. At 7 in the morning, Jessica was already walking around the apartment. She had dressed, applied eyeliner, and pulled her hair back into a ponytail. Daniel was in the kitchen, pressing the button on the coffee maker. "I'll just pop in to see my parents," she said. "I need to drop off their safety forms. I'll be back at work later." "I can take you," he offered. "No need, I'm in the car. I'll meet you in the evening." She took the cup, took a sip, and set it down unfinished. She put on her sneakers, checked her bag, and left. The door closed smoothly, without a slam. Daniel was left alone. He drank coffee, opened his laptop, and logged into the shared channel. A junior engineer had sent an email with the results of the night's monitoring. Routine tasks followed. At 9, he went down to the basement gym. The treadmill was empty. He turned on the 10-minute mode, shaking off any residual fatigue. The water in the shower was too hot, but he didn't turn on the faucet. By that point, the music from the night was gone from his head. Everything went according to plan until lunch. At 11, he had a quick call with the designer, and at 12, a product sync. After the sync, he went upstairs to the nearby grill bar for a salad. It was always busy at lunchtime. He sat by the window, ate, and looked out at the sidewalk. Jessica's father called. He asked when they were going to the doctor. Daniel said Monday. Her father thanked him and double-checked the address. The conversation went smoothly. When he returned, he opened his laptop and found himself recalling the melody from the night before. He turned on a playlist from last summer on his phone. He found the track that was most similar. Not the same, but close. He rubbed his forehead and put the phone away in a drawer. Jessica called at 4. "I'll be late," she said. "We've got 2 meetings. I'll stop by Mom's for half an hour and drop off some paperwork. Shall we have dinner at home?" "Yes. Do you want something specific?" "Get some grilled chicken and a salad. I'll be there around 7. "Okay." He went into the corner store, bought some chicken, some greens, and some bread. At the checkout, he met the building manager, Mark. He was standing in line with a bag of batteries and a pack of light bulbs. "Have you seen the cat from Tua by any chance?" Mark asked. "They're saying he ran out onto the stairs again." "I haven't seen it," Daniel replied. "And one more thing. On Wednesday, the security guys will be testing the fire alarm in the basement. If you hear a sound, don't be alarmed." "Understood." Returning to the floor, he noticed the door to 3B was slightly open. Voices could be heard from inside. He looked up at the ceiling and took a step toward his door. He didn't look back. That evening, they had dinner in the kitchen. Jessica was tired but calm. She explained that the owner of one of the studios had changed the logo without permission, and now they had to explain why it was wrong. He said the new logo looks modern, she said. I told him modern doesn't mean gluing a lightning bolt onto an old logo. Aren't you tired of arguing? Daniel asked. I'm tired, but that's my job. How's Mom? It's fine. I asked her to buy her some calcium tablets from a different brand. She said mine were too big. They cleared the table. Daniel was silent for a moment, then said, Last night I heard music through the wall. It sounded like your track from last summer's playlist. She looked at him carefully, without taking her eyes off him. I didn't turn on music last night, she said. I was sleeping. I'm not saying it was you. It just sounded familiar. It's clear. She picked up the plate and rinsed it in the sink. The water made a noise, and nothing else could be heard. He regretted saying it so bluntly, but it was better to be precise than to pile on. We need white noise, he added. You can hear everything in the house. I'll order the device today. I want to sleep normally. Order it, she agreed. I wake up from little things too. Before bed, Jessica said she'd stop by Alex's to give him the list of doctors he'd sent and to thank him. She stood by the door for a moment, then changed her mind. I'll have time tomorrow. I don't want to talk to anyone right now. As you wish, Daniel replied. The night passed better, but towards morning something woke him again, a short laugh, a quiet whisper, 2 or 3 phrases in English. He made out, yeah, and later. Then silence. He looked at his watch, 4:38. He got up, went to the kitchen, and poured some water. He opened the window for a couple of minutes. The air was cool. He closed it and returned to bed. He fell asleep in fits and starts until the alarm went off. They were checking the alarm system in the building that morning. At 10 o'clock, a siren went off for a minute in the basement, and the sound carried up to their floor. Someone in the chat complained that their child had been scared. Mark replied that it was a routine check. Jessica was already in the office at that moment. She wrote briefly, "Are you alive?" "Alive," he replied. That afternoon, Daniel went to work in the co-working space on the ground floor. There were 2 long tables and a coffee machine. Several neighbors were typing, and a man in glasses was calling someone in Toronto by the window. Daniel took a corner and set up his laptop. It was better than working at home. The walls weren't oppressive. He spent 3 hours there and then went back upstairs. There was a package by their door, a phone charger. He picked it up and noticed 3B had a mailbox key lying on the mat. None of his business. He opened his door and placed the package on the table. Jessica stayed late that evening. At 9, she wrote that the meeting was running late. She returned at 9:30. She took off her shoes and sat down on a bench in the hallway. I'm at 0, she said. Today wasn't a day, it was a collection of everything at once. Do you want some tea? He asked. No, I want to shower and sleep. She went to the bathroom. 5 minutes later, she came out, turned off the light, and lay down. At 15 to 11, the same melody sounded through the wall. Louder than before, but only briefly. Then came the laughter again, very brief. Daniel lay motionless. He heard Jessica sigh and turn over. Do you hear? He asked quietly. I hear you. Looks like he has guests, she replied just as quietly. It doesn't concern us, he said, but I still can't sleep. Me too, she replied. I have to go to my father's early tomorrow. Let's try not to overheat. Let's. At 3 in the morning, he finally fell asleep. In the morning, he felt a dull heaviness in his head. Oatmeal was cooking in the kitchen. Jessica stood in a t-shirt, making coffee. I'll take you to your father, he said. Will you drive after? I'll do it myself, she replied. It's more convenient for me this way. After the doctor's appointment, I'll go to work. Will we be home in the evening? Yes. During the day, he was distracted by work. The office was loud, but no one there cared about his thoughts. He finished his meetings, ate soup and a sandwich in the cafeteria, and talked to the admin about the new logging system. Late that evening in his office, he felt his phone vibrate. The chat at home was chatting about someone smoking on the fire escape. Alex replied curtly, "It's not my living room, but I'll check." At 10 o'clock, the chat died down. When Daniel returned, he saw a small box on their kitchen table. "What is this?" he asked. "I stopped by Best Buy after the doctor's appointment," Jessica said. "I bought a video doorbell. Mark said I could install my own as long as I didn't drill any extra holes. He'll help me connect it. We've had some troubles with packages. It's a lot more relaxing overall." "Good," Daniel said. "Let's set it up tomorrow." She nodded. They ate dinner and watched the news. At 11, Daniel went out onto the stairs to take out the trash. As he returned, the flyer about Halloween fundraisers had been replaced by an announcement of a weekend fair in the school courtyard. Donuts, games, a charity table. He tucked the paper into his pocket to show Jessica. The night brought sounds again. This time, not a melody, but quiet voices and short laughter. He couldn't make out the words. He lay there and counted to 10, then to 100. Nothing changed. A thought formed within him. Go and ring the doorbell, make a remark, say it was late. He put the thought aside. At 2, he fell asleep. In the morning, he showed Jessica the school announcement. "We can go on Saturday," he said. "We'll get some donuts for your mom." "That's a good idea," she replied. "We'll set up a video call this evening." "Yes, I'll call Mark." That afternoon, he went to the office, and she went to the studio to meet with contractors. He returned at 6. Mark was already waiting at door 3A with a box of tools. "We'll install it quickly," he said. "Your wiring is fine. Do you have the Wi-Fi password?" "Yes," Daniel replied. The installation took 20 minutes. At the end, a camera image popped up on my phone. The hallway, their rug, and part of door 3B. Mark showed me how to change the sensor's sensitivity. "Don't set it to maximum," he said. "It will tug at every movement of air." "Thank you." After Mark left, he and Jessica stood in the hallway. Daniel opened the app, turned off notifications for the night, and set the recording to only be triggered by pressing a button. He wanted to sleep peacefully. At midnight, there was movement behind the wall again. Not loud, but clear. Jessica was lying, facing the window. He rolled over onto his back and looked into the darkness. He said nothing. At first, he thought it was the stress of work. Now it became clear he wasn't making up the sounds. They were there. They continued. In the morning, he looked at himself in the mirror and realized he looked tired. He washed his face with cold water and decided that if the sound repeated that night, he would get up and turn up the camera's sensitivity. He needed to stop guessing. "Are you coming early today?" he asked Jessica over coffee. "I'll try," she said. "I want to unpack a box in the closet this evening and call my father. I'll pick up some food from the Mexican place. Salad and fajitas. It will do." He drove to work. The drive took 20 minutes. He didn't play music in the car. He wanted silence. Tasks awaited him at the office, and he immersed himself in them, giving his brain a break from the stress of home. That evening, they ate and talked about their parents' plans. Jessica said the doctor Alex recommended had made a good impression. He nodded. They turned on a TV show, but didn't finish it. They went to bed. At 2 in the morning, the sound returned. First, a short laugh. Then a whisper. He didn't understand the words. He turned off press-only mode and set his phone to motion mode. He went back to bed. He didn't want to make a scene. He wanted the facts. Let the recording give him a chance to stop fantasizing. Daniel woke up before his alarm that morning. The kitchen was quiet. He checked the camera settings. Motion mode was on. The zone was set to just their threshold and a section of the common hallway so as not to pick up any debris from the elevator. He lowered the sensitivity to medium and set notifications to important only. He placed his phone face down. "Are you going to the office today?" Jessica asked, coming out of the bedroom. "Yes, I'll be back at 6. What should I buy you?" "Take some milk and eggs, and some printer paper. We're out of it. Okay?" They drank coffee without talking. At the door, Jessica adjusted her scarf and looked at him more closely than usual. "Go to bed earlier today," she said. "You look tired." "We'll try." He left 5 minutes later. On the way to the office, he turned on a podcast about the state budget, but turned it off at the first ad. He wanted a blank space. There was a monitoring meeting at 9 and a task review at 10. He worked focusedly without his thoughts wandering to home. At 1, he went down to a nearby cafe for soup. The line was short. While he waited, someone in the chat room at home was arguing about repairing the carpet on the second floor. He didn't read it. He returned to his desk and finished writing an email to the client. At 2 o'clock, the first notification arrived. Motion detected at the door. Daniel opened the preview. On the screen, Mark was carrying a box of tools, walking up to 3B, knocking and leaving. 10 minutes later, the delivery man arrived with a package. A smooth flow of ordinary events. He calmed down. He set his phone to silent and left it on vibrate. At 3:10, another notification. The preview showed a hand flashing at the edge of the frame, then a mailbox door. The neighbor from 3C got up with a package, passed. Nothing. Daniel immersed himself in work again. The team discussed the patch rollout, and he argued about the logs. At 4 o'clock, another signal came through. He opened the door and saw Jessica. She approached their door with a bag, no coat, meaning she'd gotten up quickly from the car. She unlocked the door, went in, and came out again a minute later. The video showed a timecode during recording, which he automatically noted 16:07, and at that moment, Alex appeared in the frame. He was walking from the end of the hallway, holding a small box. Jessica turned to him and said something. The sound from the door camera was squeaky, making it hard to make out. Alex picked up the box, pretending to explain. She smiled, stepped closer, opened the door wider, as if inviting, and at that moment, he hugged her. Not a quick greeting. Daniel saw his hand rest on her back. The embrace was long, lasting 21 seconds. Then Jessica stepped back, said something short, Alex nodded, and entered 3B. She closed the door and disappeared behind it. The recording ended. Daniel put his phone on the table and didn't touch it for a minute. First, he noticed the facts. It was 4:08 p.m. She was home without a coat, so she was only staying for a short while. Alex's box was small, more for loose change. The camera angle didn't distort the distance. Then his emotions caught up. His throat went dry. He stood, walked to the sink in the office kitchen, and filled it with water. The water sobered him, but didn't restore his calm. He returned to his desk and opened the recording again. He rewound, stopped at the moment of the hug, and paused. Inevitable clarity. No accident, no thank you, half a second later. These were people who felt at ease around each other. He sent the clip to the app's archive and set a password. He'd enabled cloud syncing beforehand, and the file was transferred to his account. He sat there, staring at the laptop screen where a line of code glowed, and for a couple of minutes, he couldn't see the text. Then he pulled himself together and returned to the task. He highlighted the important parts and postponed the rest until tomorrow. He hadn't planned to text Jessica. He wanted to come home and talk off the phone. At 5, he went to Best Buy to buy paper. His car key fob battery died in the parking lot, so he changed it at the checkout. On the way to the supermarket, he picked up some milk and eggs. He unexpectedly ran into Mark in the milk section. "How's the camera?" he asked. "Is it picking up the postman?" "It catches," Daniel said. "It works fine. If there are any false positives, let us know, and we'll reconfigure it. Some people set the angle too wide and then complain." Understood. Returning home, he stopped by the post office first and picked up a bag of water filters. The landing was empty. On the rug next to 3B was a pair of sneakers and a box of kitchen. He opened the door to 3A. Inside, it was clean. Jessica's note was on the table. "I'll stop by Mom's for 20 minutes. Be there by 7. Do you have the folder with the tests? Don't forget to bring it. I'll leave a copy with my parents. Jay." He put the note on the refrigerator and took out some milk. His phone vibrated a message from his friend's chat. "Who's going to the game on Sunday?" He didn't answer. He put water on the stove for pasta, changed his mind, and turned it off. He sat down at the table. He opened the camera app and watched the clip again. He confirmed that he was seeing exactly what he was seeing. No guesswork. Jessica called at 6:15. "I'm at my mom's," she said. "Their TV remote isn't working. I'll bring some batteries and be there soon. Are you home yet?" "At home." "What's for dinner?" "Nothing yet. I can order it. Let me pick up some soup and salad on the way, okay?" "Okay." He hung up. He sat on the edge of the sofa. He decided that tonight he would simply say, "I saw." No accusations, no prepared speeches. The words would be simple. He hadn't rehearsed, but he had a plan in his head. Facts, questions, a pause. To avoid sitting in silence, he went up to the roof of the building. There was a small terrace with 4 plastic chairs. No one was there. The street noise drifted down below, and the air was cool. He sat down and called Mike. "Where are you?" Mike asked. "At home." A moment of silence. "Did work let you go?" "For the evening, yes. Listen, it's not about work. Have you ever seen a fact and your brain tries to wrap it in soft packaging?" It was. It usually doesn't help. "What happened?" "I'm not ready to discuss the details. Let's just say I encountered something I didn't want to see. I don't drink, but I really want to. Is this a bad idea?" "Bad. You need a clear head, and someone you can talk to without posing. Do you have a therapist?" "No." "Then talk to the person involved today. Tomorrow, find a specialist. Even if you decide to resolve the issue yourself, talking to a neutral person helps." "Got it. Thank you." "I'm here if you just need to talk," Mike added. "No details." "Okay." Daniel came down. Door 3B opened at that moment, and Alex came out with bags of trash. "Hello," he said, evenly and calmly. "Everything okay?" The technician wasn't there, but they promised to check the ventilation on Wednesday. "It's fine," Daniel said. "Thank you." Alex nodded and headed for the stairs. Not a hint of embarrassment, not a hint of conversation. His expression was composed, like a man tired from his shift and taking out the trash. Jessica arrived at 7:05. She had a bag from the cafe in one hand and batteries in the other. She set the food on the table and took off her shoes. "I got everything quickly," she said. "Mom's remote worked. We have Cobb salad and chicken soup." "Thank you," he replied. "Before I eat, I need to talk to you." She stopped and looked closely. Her face became serious. "About what?" "About today." At 14:08, the camera sent a notification. He put the phone on the table and unlocked it. "I saw you open the door and how you hugged." She exhaled briefly and looked down at the bag. Then she looked again. She began and fell silent. "Let's sit down." They sat in the kitchen. The food remained in the bags. Daniel started the recording. They watched in silence for 20 seconds. He turned off the screen. "I don't want to scream," he said. "I need to understand what's going on." Her voice was even, but inside she could already hear a trembling. "It went too far," she said. "I was holding on to the idea that we were just neighbors. But it's more than that. I didn't sleep with him. But I knew I was going in the wrong direction." "How long does this last?" "The last few weeks. After our breakdowns, I was glad that someone was looking at me and seeing me through something other than my actions. That's no excuse." He listened. The words were cut carefully, without unnecessary details, but they meant a lot. He raised his palm. "I don't need details right now. I need us to state the fact. You crossed the line. You knew what you were doing. You decided not to tell me." "Yes," she said. "I decided not to tell." He nodded. He stood up, went to the window, and looked out at the yard. He returned to the table. He felt like he was about to break down, but he held himself back. "I'll sleep in the guest room tonight," he said. "We'll decide what to do tomorrow morning. We need a plan. What to tell the parents, how to live in the apartment for the next few days, what to do with the things, and therapy, family therapy, if you're ready." She nodded. I'm ready, and I understand that I can't pretend this is a small thing. It's not a small thing. The food will get cold, he said dryly. Let's eat. Then I'll take the pillow and go to the guest room. Fine. They ate in silence. The soup was warm. Forks clanged against plates. He noted how automatic actions helped him maintain his composure. After dinner, he put the dishes in the sink and turned on the water. She stood nearby, holding a towel and saying nothing. Then she said, I'll write to Alex that we need to stop any personal conversations, and that I won't visit him. That's my responsibility. Right, he replied, without excuses. She nodded. She picked up her phone and typed a message. She showed it to him. I need to stop personal contact. Please respect my decision. No more one-on-one meetings. He nodded. She hit send. Thank you for not shouting, she said quietly. Screaming doesn't help me, he replied. I need clarity. He grabbed a pillow, a sheet, and a blanket. He went into the guest room, closed the door, sat down on the bed. He opened his laptop and wrote down 3 points. 1, find a family therapist. 2, set rules for the next week. 3, decide who lives where now. He saved the file and closed it. He lay down, but didn't sleep. Scenes from the last few days crowded around his head, and the scene with the hug took center stage. It was quiet behind the wall. The camera was silent. The phone lay face down on the nightstand. He rolled over and, for the first time in days, didn't listen to the music or the whispers. He didn't need guesses. He had a fact. The night in the guest room passed without sleep. Daniel periodically got up, drank water, and checked for new notifications from the camera. His phone was silent. At 6, he got dressed and went outside. He ran around the block and stopped at a 24-hour store for bananas. On his way back, he met Mark at the door. It's early today, Mark said. Yes, I wanted to freshen up. Just a reminder, tomorrow from 10 to 12, we're checking smoke detectors in apartments. If you're not there, please leave access. I'll be home, Daniel said. The apartment smelled of coffee. Jessica stood by the stove in sweatpants and a hoodie. Her hair was pulled back, her gaze calm but tired. Good morning, she said. Kind. I had a bad night. I know you did too. Yes. They sat down at the table. Daniel placed a banana in front of him, but didn't peel it. We need to talk through the details, he said, as calmly as possible. Are you ready? Ready. Tell me straight, what happened between you and what didn't? I need this to understand the scale. There was no sex, she said. There were conversations, long ones. There was texting. There were hugs twice. Once he kissed me on the cheek, and I didn't stop right away. That's all. I'm ashamed. I'm not making excuses. How long did you correspond? About 3 weeks. Mostly in the evenings. He'd ask how I was doing, and I'd tell him. It made me feel like I was being listened to. I knew it was a slippery slope, but I answered anyway. Who started? I was the one who knocked on the door about the internet. Then he wrote about the doctor. Then it just happened. No, not just happened. I kept going, so I was making a choice. Daniel nodded, keeping the pace of the conversation steady so as not to descend into shouting. Were there one-on-one meetings at his home? Twice. The first time, when I brought in the knife and the bags. The second time, when our internet went out, I went in for a minute, and we sat in the kitchen for 10 minutes. I left. I never came in again. Yesterday, he was walking down the hallway, and you saw him. He knows you're married. Were you talking about us? Yes. I said we were going through a difficult time, that we were both tired. He hardly asked any questions, just listened. I'm not making excuses for that. Is he married? Divorced. A long time ago. Were you going to tell me? I was going to stop and pretend nothing happened. That's the worst plan. I understand. They fell silent. The coffee had grown cold. Someone turned on the shower behind the wall, and the sound of running water could be heard. What do you want now? Daniel asked. Specifically. I want to stop communicating with Alex completely. I want to go to couples therapy. I'm ready to live separately if that's what you need. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I understand that I've broken your trust. I'm ready to do what will help us, if that's still possible. I don't make promises, he said, but I'm willing to try therapy, and I want you to go to your mom's for a while, not as a punishment, as a break so I can hear my thoughts. A week, then we'll see. I'll leave this evening, she nodded. I'll gather the essentials. And one more thing. No hidden messages. I'm not asking to see his phone number, but if you continue to communicate with him outside of our agreement, there's no point in continuing. I won't, she said. I wrote to him yesterday. I can show him the answer. No need. What you said is enough. He sighed. The tension that had washed over him made his shoulders tense, and he stretched his neck. I'll write to the therapists today, he continued. We'll choose who's right for us. The first session should be as soon as possible. We'll set the rules there. For now, no meetings with Alex, no conversations. If you run into him in the hallway, just say a quick hello and move on. I'll do it this way. And nothing to the parents yet, he added. This is our story. If we decide to talk, we'll say it together and with understanding. Agree. Jessica put the mugs in the sink. She asked, Are you going to the office? Yes. I'll be back by 6. Tell me when you're leaving for Mom's. I'll help with the bag. Thank you. I'll announce at work that I'm taking a couple of days off work. I'll go see my dad and work with you to find a therapist. She went into the bedroom. Daniel got ready, took the keys. He stopped at the door. I don't know how to talk to Alex, he said, or if I even want to. Don't tell me, she replied. I wrote to him myself. He understands everything. He's an adult. Fine. Daniel went to the office. A woman was standing in the elevator with a dog in a carrier, the dog whining softly. He looked at the floorboard and counted his breaths. In the office, he sat down by the window and opened his laptop. He texted Mike, We've had a conversation. I'm going to look for a therapist. Mike responded a minute later with the contact information for his specialist and 2 others. Daniel opened the websites. One had an upcoming slot on Thursday, the other a week later. He left a request for Thursday, specifying that he needed a family-friendly appointment, and wrote briefly, without details. Then it was work. He called the team, discussed bugs, and addressed minor issues. At lunch, he grabbed a sandwich and ate it at his place. At 2, Jessica called him. I contacted a therapist, she said. She has an opening on Friday evening. I wrote that it was just the 2 of us. Check your email. She sent the forms. I also found an option for Thursday, he replied. If possible, the sooner the better. Let's take Thursday and leave Friday as a spare. Agreed. I'll go to my mom's after 5. I'll take my things for the week. I'll be home by 6. That evening, Daniel came up to the floor with a bag of groceries. The door to 3B was empty. He didn't listen. Jessica's packed bag and a cardboard box of cosmetics were in their apartment. She was tying the laces on her sneakers. I'll take the bag, he said. Is it heavy? It's fine. There are clothes and a laptop. He carried the bag to the elevator and took it down. Jessica's car was parked at the entrance. They loaded the trunk. I'll go, she said. I'll call when I'm at Mom's. Okay. She looked at him. I know words aren't enough. If you need me to put it in writing, I'll do it. I don't want to just throw out pretty phrases. I want to take action. Do it, he said. I need it. She got into the car and started the engine. She waved through the window. He nodded briefly. The car pulled out of the yard. Daniel stood there until the taillights disappeared around the corner. Then he returned to the house. In the hallway, he took off his shoes and walked into the kitchen. He turned on the light over the table. He opened his laptop and began filling out the therapy forms. Names, contact information, a brief description of the situation. He wrote dryly, loss of trust, desire to understand if there is a future, readiness to work. He hit send. The phone vibrated. It was a text from Jessica. "I've arrived. Mom's home. I'm in the room I used to live in. I'll call you later." He replied, "Okay." At that moment, footsteps were heard in the hallway. Someone lingered at 3B. The neighbor's doorbell didn't ring. Daniel held his breath for a second, but then let it out. He turned off the camera notifications for the night. He didn't want to catch every shadow. To escape the emptiness, he went to the laundry room in the basement. He started the machine and sat down on a plastic chair. Next to him, his neighbor from 2C was sorting the children's clothes. They exchanged a few words about the dryer cycle. Then silence. This simple rhythm helped. Back upstairs, he made himself an omelet and toast. He ate at the table, turned on the news for half an hour, then turned it off. He grabbed a notepad and wrote down the rules for the week. One, communication only about everyday matters and arranging therapy. 2, no meetings or conversations with Alex. 3, brief reports to each other every evening. What we've done in therapy, how we're feeling. 4, on the weekends we'll decide if we need another week apart. He took a photo of the page and sent it to Jessica. She replied, "Agreed." At 9 o'clock, Jessica's father called. "We heard you were busy," he said. "But if you need to take Jessica somewhere, I can. Mom's nearby." "Thank you," Daniel replied. "She's with you. She'll be more at ease." "Hang in there," my father said without asking any questions. "We're here if anything happens." "Thank you." At 10:30, a message arrived from an unknown number. "Good evening. This is Dr. Rosen, family therapist. Your appointment is confirmed. Thursday, 6:30 p.m. in person. Please complete the forms at the link." He replied, "Received." He forwarded the screenshot to Jessica. She clicked OK. Before bed, he did one more thing. He took their shared framed photo of the seaside from the hallway and put it away in the closet. Not because he wanted to hide the past. He needed to free up some shelf space from objects that were currently overwhelming him. He turned off the light and went into the guest room. He paused at the threshold and wrote a short message to the neighbor's chat. "If you hear any noise at night, please message me privately. I'd like to know where it's coming from." A couple of minutes later, Alex replied to the general chat. "There won't be any noise from my end at night. If there was, I apologize." A couple of minutes later, the neighbor from 3C wrote that she sometimes had guests staying until 11, but they would try to be quieter. Daniel put his phone on the nightstand. He wasn't going to settle things over text. He'd set boundaries. That was enough for today. He lay down and, for the first time in many days, didn't listen to the walls. Sleep came quickly, without lapses. He had an agreement, a session time, and simple rules. That would last him for the next 12 hours. The morning began quieter than usual. No doors slammed in the hallway, the elevator moved smoothly, without the usual grinding noise. Daniel woke without an alarm, feeling like the apartment had become a half-tone duller. He made coffee, opened the kitchen window, and heard only the hum of the distant air conditioner. The camera by the door was silent. Not a single notification all night. He took the robot vacuum cleaner out of the closet and pressed the cleaning button. The machine came out and moved along the baseboard, its brushes scrubbing. He spread the sheet of paper with a week's rules on the table and checked off the boxes for therapy booked and living separately. His finger stopped at the point about short report in the evening. He wrote in a note, "Slept better, no sounds. Still empty inside, but no panic." He had to be at the office by 10. On the way, he stopped at a hardware store to pick up some new light bulbs for the hallway. At the checkout, an elderly man in a baseball cap asked if they could help him with the best ones for the chandelier, and Daniel automatically listed soft white 2700K. The words came effortlessly. His familiar, everyday competence was a pleasant distraction. There was a poster on the wall in the office about the dress code for the corporate event. Smart casual, no shorts. The team was getting ready for a stand-up comedy session. Priya nodded, looking at it intently. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly when the others had left. "I'm holding up," He replied, "Therapy is on Thursday." "That's good. If you want, I'll cover for you on duty on Friday." "Thank you. We'll see how it goes." Work proceeded according to plan. Code review, discussions with product managers, a quick call with support. He tried not to look at his phone. For lunch, he grabbed a bowl of rice and chicken and sat by the window. On the next street, they were loading up Halloween displays. Plastic pumpkins and rubber spiders were being rolled out on a cart, and this mundane preparation for the holiday made it clearer that life around him wasn't frozen in place along with his problem. Jessica rode around too. "Everything's calm with Mom. I've taken 2 days off. I found another therapist in case Thursday falls through. The evening call is scheduled for 8:30 p.m. As per the rules, is that convenient?" He replied, "Yes, 8:30 p.m. Then he added, "I changed the light in the hallway. I'll turn the camera off for the night." She clicked, "Okay." On his way home, he paused at the notice board outside the entrance. A notice hung there. "Neighbors, Saturday is the school fair. Bring your whole family." Below it, in someone else's handwriting, "Volunteers needed for the donut table." He tore off the small tear-off number, though he wasn't sure yet if it would work. He wanted to do something simple, something that didn't involve his home. Floor 3B was quiet. There were no boxes, sneakers, or notes on the rug. The door was closed. Inside 3A, he took off his shoes and listened silence. Even the refrigerator seemed to hum more softly. He washed the sink, wiped down the counter, and moved the extra mugs that were in the way onto the shelf. The order was calming. At 8:30, he called Jessica. In the background, she could hear the radio, the presenter quietly talking about traffic. "Hello," she said, "ready for the report." "Everything's going according to plan," he said. "I worked. I slept better. I cleaned the kitchen this evening. I'll turn off the camera for the night, just like I planned." "I got my mom a tablet for video calls," she said. "I ordered her new glasses online. I found a list of therapy questions. I'll share them with you. I wrote to HR that I need a couple of hours on Thursday afternoon." "Okay, I'll come by tomorrow morning and pick up my jacket. It's in the trunk of your car," he said. "Tell Mom." "I'll tell you." And I wrote Alex another message. "Please don't contact me with any questions except emergencies." He replied, "Understood." "Okay," Daniel said. "I haven't seen him all day." "Me too," she replied. The neighbors in the chat wrote that he asked Mark for a temporary pass for the technicians. But that's all. Looks like he's trying to keep a low profile. And good. They were silent for a few seconds. He heard someone in Jessica's house push back a chair. "Let's have another rule," he said. "If one of us feels like breaking down and writing something harsh, we write about it first, but without the actual message. 10 minutes of silence. Then we decide whether it's necessary." "I agree," she replied. "Today I had the urge to justify myself at length, but I held back." "Thank you." They agreed to call each other at the same time tomorrow and said goodbye. He hung up and felt hungry for the first time that day. He warmed up the leftover pasta and sat down by the window with a plate. A light rain fell outside. The silence wasn't oppressive. It was work-like. On Wednesday morning, security guards came to the apartment for a routine sensor check. Mark knocked and asked if he could enter. Daniel let them in and signed the paperwork. One of the technicians asked if he could plug their test module into the outlet in the hallway. "Of course," Daniel replied. The inspection took 10 minutes. "On the way out," Mark said. "If you feel a chill coming on somewhere, let me know. It happens in this wing." "It's okay," Daniel said. "Thank you." On the landing, they ran into a neighbor from 3C. She smiled. "It's quiet here, thank you. I sometimes stay up late with my friends, but I'll try to leave early." "I appreciate it," he replied. "And if anything happens, write to me." He grabbed his jacket and drove to Jessica's parents' house. His mother opened the door immediately, as if she'd been waiting at the door. She hugged him briefly, not like before. Her gaze was attentive, but without any attempt to ask questions. "The jacket is in the hallway," she said. "Tea?" "Thank you, just for a minute," he replied. He drank half a cup and chatted about the weather and grocery prices. Jessica came downstairs, her hair done up, her face makeup-free. "Take them," she said, handing over the bag. "I'll order you new insoles, the old ones are worn out." "No need," he said. "I'll do it myself." She nodded. At the threshold, she added, "I've added a section on finances and household chores to the document. Please take a look at it this evening." "I'll see." On Thursday, before his appointment with his therapist, he stopped at the gym. A half hour on the treadmill helped shake off any remaining anxiety. This time, the shower was perfectly warm. He changed and took a taxi to the clinic. The therapist's office was brightly lit. Diplomas hung on the wall, and a box of tissues sat on the table. Dr. Rosen was about 50, with a clear, unfussy manner, accustomed to tense conversations. They sat opposite each other. Jessica arrived on time and greeted him briefly. "Let's start with today's goal," the doctor said. "One sentence from each." "I want to see if we have a chance to restore trust," Daniel said. "I want to take responsibility and not cause more harm," Jessica said. The therapist nodded. She asked each of them for facts, without detail. She proposed a rule: no interruptions and honest yes or no answers to short questions. At first, it seemed dry, but gradually the conversation took shape. They agreed on specific steps for the next 2 weeks. Separate residences would continue, phone reports would be kept every evening for no more than 10 minutes, and one walk together on neutral territory, no discussion of third parties. The therapist assigned homework. Each person would write a list of 10 things they valued in the other person and 10 irritants that could be changed without harming themselves. They didn't walk next to each other on the way out. They stood in silence by the elevator. "Thank you for not going on the defensive," Daniel said. "Thank you for not coming with a ready-made verdict," she replied. "We'll talk tomorrow at the usual time," he said. Yes. At home, he felt tired, but it was bearable. He sat down at the table and wrote lists. "I value a sense of humor, discipline, the way you take care of your parents, honesty with money, the ability to listen to customers, the willingness to drive to friends' houses at night if they are feeling unwell, the ability to bake a pie, precision, a love of order, politeness with service staff, irritating and changeable, a phone at the desk, promises without deadlines, leaving work on Sundays, okay instead of an answer, hiding fatigue, rescheduling without warning, pretending everything is fine, late messages to colleagues, forgotten sneakers in the hallway, leaving the light in the bathroom on." He saved the document. That evening, Jessica called and read him her list. His chest tightened at the line. "You know how to maintain boundaries in a way that makes everyone feel more comfortable." He said, "Thank you," and turned off the microphone for a few seconds to compose himself. On Friday morning, he got up early and did his exercises. He wrote in the work chat that he was handing over the Friday shift to Priya. His colleagues responded with a "hang in there" sticker. Mark's post appeared in the building chat. "3B temporarily unoccupied for the weekend. Technicians will be here on Saturday." Alex, it seemed, had left. Daniel noted that neither relief nor a surge of anger welled up inside. The emptiness remained emptiness. He went into the bakery and bought donuts for the school fair. The guy behind the counter placed a packet of cinnamon on top for the good people on the third floor. He smiled naturally for the first time in a week. At home, he changed the bed linen, cleaned up, and put some flowers in a glass. That evening, he called Mike and talked about the matches. Not about the meanings, but about the schedule and chances. That helped too. He found himself breathing more freely at times than he had 2 days ago. Before going to bed, he turned off the camera and checked the windows. The hallway was quiet. Inside, too. He lay down in the guest room and realized the silence had finally stopped seeming suspicious. It was simply there. He pulled the blanket over himself, closed his eyes, and thought that Saturday would be spent at the fair and Sunday at the park. It sounded like a plan he could carry out alone, if necessary, and together, if possible. Saturday began with coffee in a paper cup and the smell of donuts in the schoolyard. Long tables were set up in the courtyard, children ran around with paper pumpkins, and parents argued about the raffle. Daniel carried a box of donuts to the charity sales table. A volunteer in a bright sweater wrote his name on the list. "Are you from the house on Madison?" she asked. "Half the block volunteers here." "Yes, third floor." "Thanks for the donuts," she said. "They'll be gone in 10 minutes." He stayed behind to help distribute coffee and collect donations. It was a simple task. "Please, thank you, keep the change." A nearby boy of about 10 handed him a box of change and sternly asked, "Don't mix it up with the tickets." Daniel smiled. His hands had gotten used to the routine, and his head was resting. At 11 o'clock, Jessica and her mother arrived at the fair. Both were wearing jackets and scarves. Her mother waved from a distance, and Jessica came closer. "Hi," she said. "We're only here for half an hour. Mom wanted to see the knitted hat stand." "Hello," he nodded. "Have some coffee? No sugar." "Yes, thank you." He poured and handed the glass over. Jessica held it in both hands, as if warming herself. "How's the night?" she asked. "Calm down." I turned off the camera. "We haven't had any adventures either," she said. "Mom went to bed early. I read your list. I'll write mine before the evening." "Let's meet later at the cafe on the corner," he suggested. "At 4. We'll talk about everyday things and what's next." "It will do." His mother came over, thanked him for the coffee, and told him she'd found a hat for a friend, but it was really too bright. The conversation was polite and brief. As they parted, she touched Daniel's elbow. "Come over tomorrow for soup," she said, "if you want." "Thank you," he replied. "We'll look at the plans." They met at the cafe at 4. There was no window seat, so they sat against the wall. Small signs on the tables read, "Occupied at 5." The barrister recognized Jessica and nodded. "Let's start from the beginning," Daniel said. "The apartment. I propose we extend our separation for another month. No exceptions. You're with Mom, I'm here." "I agree," she replied. "Finances. We don't touch the joint account. All regular payments are on schedule. We each cover our own personal expenses. If we need anything big, we communicate with each other in advance." "Fits." "Contact with Alex," he continued. "None. If we cross paths at home, just say hello and goodbye. If he writes, send me a screenshot without comment. I won't reply. This is just a recording." "I agree. He doesn't write." After my message, there was silence. "Parents. Yours nothing yet. Mine for now too. Friends at least. I told one person, without details. I'm Amy. No details either." She understood. "Therapy. 2 sessions a week for the first 2 weeks, then we'll figure it out. Homework, we both do it." "Yes," she nodded. "I've already compiled a list of therapists in case of a change." "The keys," he said. "Keep a set. No restrictions. But let me know if you're coming. I'll let you know too if I come to yours. No surprises." "Agreed. Let's start a shared calendar." He pulled out his phone, created a shared calendar for break routine, and added her. She confirmed. The schedule now included repeating blocks for 8:30 p.m. report, session, and purchases. "Now comes the hard part," he said. "You said chance. What do you mean by that?" "I want to bring back a relationship where we see each other," she said, "without the illusion that everything will go back to the way it was. The way it was is what brought us here. I want to learn to speak up, not just endure things in silence. And I want you to tell me when you're feeling down. Not just say okay, but with words. And for us to have things we share, not just lists." "That's the right thing to say," he replied. "But I'm not ready to promise I'll be able to trust again. And I'm not ready to rush to the finish line. I need some distance right now. If at the end of the month I feel clearer and want to move on, we'll continue. If not, let's be honest." I'll accept this result, she said, but I'll work. They were silent for a moment. Someone dropped a spoon in the cafe, and the barista noisily rinsed a pitcher. Jessica pulled out a piece of paper. Here's my list, she said. 10 things I value, and 10 that get in the way. I won't read it out loud. I'll send it to you in a document. The main thing is that there's nothing humiliating in it, just specifics. Okay, and one more thing. I asked HR about employee support programs. They offer consultations. I'll take a couple of them for myself separately. This isn't a replacement for our therapy, but an addition. Right, he said. I'll probably get a running coach. I need to start a new habit. Good idea. They poured coffee and discussed mundane matters. What to buy, who would take the filters to their parents, how to divide up the parking space this week. Everything was practical, without any barbs. Finally, Jessica pulled the mailbox key out of her pocket. Your duplicate, she said. Take it. I'll leave mine with Mom. Thank you. On the way out, they stopped at the door. I'll suggest one more thing, Daniel said. During the pause, no new friendships of the opposite sex. No one-on-one meetings with colleagues for wine. I'll stick to that, too. It sounds strict, but otherwise the experiment is impure. I agree, she replied. That makes sense. They went their separate ways. Daniel walked home. Pumpkins were being sold on the corner. 2 teenagers were arguing over the price. An elderly woman was asking for a small one for her pie. Life around him echoed with mundane conversations. This helped him stay on course. That evening, they had a scheduled call. The report took 9 minutes. He talked about a meeting at a cafe with a manager from another team, where they discussed how to avoid burnout before the release. She talked about going to the pharmacy with her mother and arranging for her medication to be delivered. Are you comfortable in the apartment? Jessica asked. Yes, he replied. It became easier now that the rules were clear. I'm glad we talked them through. Me too. On Sunday, he went to the park. There were a lot of runners there. He set a moderate pace, set the timer for 20 minutes, and breathed evenly. On the 4th lap, he saw Mike. He waved. Are you alive? He asked after the circle. Yes, said Daniel. I've set up the frames. Let's get to work. Okay, Mike nodded. If you want to run 10 kilometers in November, there's a local race. I can sign us both up. Write this down, Daniel said, unexpectedly to himself. I need a deadline. He returned home via the grocery store, bought some cooked chicken, a salad, and a pack of containers. He laid out enough food for 3 days. He took a photo of his fridge layout and sent it to Jessica in the Everyday Life group chat, meal plan ready. She responded with a thumbs-up emoji and wrote, I made an appointment with a nutritionist for my mom. I'll send you a billing statement. On Monday morning, he stopped by to see the manager, Mark, to ask about the HVAC. Everything's fine, Mark said. The technicians were in 3B, adjusting some things, but things will be quieter. And yes, there's sensor work on your floor on Thursday, don't worry. Accepted. He texted Jessica from work. I'll be by your place this evening to drop off the TV cable. 7 p.m., okay? Okay, came the reply. He delivered the cable, said hello, and the installation took 5 minutes. His mother thanked him as if it were a great favor. Are you eating normally? She asked in the kitchen in a homely, no-nonsense tone. I'm eating, he said. I'm fine. Fine. Jessica walked him to the door and stopped at the threshold. Thank you for coming, she said. If you do something for yourself, don't forget to tell me. That's important too. I'll tell you, he nodded. On Wednesday, I'll sign a new duty schedule at work so I don't have to die at night. Great. He stepped outside. The evening was cool. He walked to his car and thought about how this week had been like a quiet construction site. First the markings, then the foundation. He didn't know what the end result would be, but he knew for sure that from now on, there were only concrete steps. Before bed, he wrote a note in a shared document, Wednesday joint walk on neutral territory. He suggested the park near the library. Jessica agreed. He had one more thing to decide. He placed the ring of keys on the nightstand and pulled out an extra one, the one for the storage room. In the morning, he would take the box there someday. It would bide its time when he would decide what to do with it, unpack it or give it away. For now, he simply needed to put it out of sight. He turned off the light. The door camera was on push mode. He set his phone to do not disturb until 7 in the morning, and went to bed without thinking about the walls. The choice had been made: a break, therapy, a month apart, honest reports. Next, execution. The rest would come later. A week passed, then another. The calendar was filled with the same old ticks. 8:30 p.m. report, session, shopping, run. Daniel kept a rhythm, like a work schedule. He went to the park in the mornings, added intervals, and by Sunday, he'd run 5 kilometers nonstop. Mike sent a confirmation of his registration for the November race and jokingly asked if it was time to buy some shorts with a number on them. Daniel replied, "I'll make it." On Monday, he called a locksmith. The old locks worked, but he decided to install new ones with a smart cylinder and a regular key in case of power outages. Mark was aware of this and gave the go-ahead. The locksmith arrived promptly at 10, quickly replaced the locks, and gave him 2 keys and a code for the app. "Should I leave a copy with the manager?" the mechanic asked. "No, thanks. I'll give you access via code if you need it." That evening, he put one set on the shelf and the other in the safe. He changed the digital code in the app and added temporary access for Jessica in case she needed to retrieve her things. He texted her, "New locks are in place. I've sent your code to the general chat. You can pick up the keys from me when we meet if you need them." The answer came a minute later. "Okay, thanks for the warning." Wednesday was spent in meetings. After work, they took their neutral walk by the library. It was quiet. They walked around the path and talked about everyday life. Jessica's mother was sleeping better. Her father had finished watching the rest of the season. The studios were launching a new discount, and Daniel's team had stabilized the release. "Therapy offered us separate appointments next week," Jessica said. "I'll go on Tuesday." "I'll be back on Wednesday morning," he replied. "The running coach suggested a 4-week plan. I'll give it a try." They sat down on the bench. "How are you doing in the apartment alone?" she asked. "I'm getting used to it," he said. "The routine helps. I cook for 3 days, clean according to a list. I read in the evening. I keep the camera on click mode. It's quiet at night." "I'm glad it's quiet," she said, "and that you're running." "It's something I control," he replied. "It's important." They stood up. They shook hands goodbye formally, without any unnecessary warmth. It was easier to avoid crossing borders that way. On Friday, Daniel went to lunch with Priya and 2 other engineers at a small burger joint. The conversation revolved around work and rent. One of the guys complained about rising prices. "Neighbors are half the source of our happiness," Priya noted. "If the students are drinking, that's bad. If they're quiet, life is possible." "It's quiet here," Daniel said. "I hope it stays that way." On Saturday, he stopped by Jessica's parents' house, dropped off some water filters, and installed a video calling app on their TV. His mother baked chocolate chip cookies and slipped them into his bag. "Take it, and come to the football game on Sunday if you're in the mood," she said. "We'll see," he replied. Jessica came down from the top floor with 3 boxes. "These are books and jackets," she said. "I'll pick up the rest later. If it bothers you, let me know." "It's no problem," he replied. "I'll put them in the pantry." They carried the boxes to her car and stood next to it, looking at the trunk lid. "I wrote a letter," she said unexpectedly. "Not an email, a paper one. I want to give it to you. Not to replace conversations. To collect in one place what I can't say in the session." "What is it about?" "About what I apologize for, about what I'm afraid of, and about what I'll leave no matter what. No pressure. If you don't want it, I won't give it to you." He thought for a second. "Give it to me. I'll read it when I'm ready. On Sunday after his run, he found an envelope under his door. Neatly written, "Daniel, read this when you're calm." He didn't open it. He put it on the shelf next to his therapy paperwork. That evening, he made himself dinner, called Mike, discussed his race preparation, then sat down at his laptop and wrote 3 questions for the next session in a shared document. 1. How will we define progress? 2. How do we prevent hidden triggers? 3. What if in the third week one of us realizes they want to stop? On Monday, he met his track coach at the school track. The coach, Josh, was talkative but not overly pressurized. "We'll start with the basics, cadence, breathing," he said. "And don't rush it. I didn't come here for records." "I came for discipline," Daniel agreed. That evening, during a session with the therapist, they discussed boundaries. Dr. Rosen suggested a practice, a safe word for conversations when one of them felt like they were getting heated. They chose a simple pause. They agreed that after the pause, everyone had the right to leave the room for 20 minutes without offense. They wrote this down in a shared rulebook. On the way out, Jessica handed him a set of keys to the new locks, the ones he'd left at the meeting. He took them and put them in his pocket. "I didn't open the letter," he said. "Not because it wasn't important. I just needed time." "I understand," she replied. "No deadline. Whenever you can." At home, he took off his sneakers, turned on the dishwasher, and only then opened the envelope. The letter was 2 pages long, unadorned, and rhetorical. "Forgive me and forgive yourself," it read at the end. Between those lines were simple bullet points: where she lied, where she kept silent, what she wouldn't do again. He read it, folded the pages back up, and put them in the therapy folder. He didn't feel like crying. He wanted to go out to the stairs and just sit on one step. He sat down, sat for a minute, and then returned to the apartment. The following week, the smoke detectors in the building were replaced, and everyone in the chat thanked Mark. Alex didn't show up. One day, a message arrived. 3B temporarily absent, will be back in November. For access inquiries, please contact the manager. Signature, Alex K. There was almost no response. Daniel saw this and remarked, "It's more reassuring." On Tuesday, after his run, he met Jessica's friend Amy by the elevator. She smiled briefly, without the usual legal force in her voice. "Hi," she said. "I'm not trying to pry, I'll just say this. Jess is working. It shows. I'm on her side and on the side of the process." "Thank you," he replied. "I'm in the process too." At Thursday's session, for the first time, they talked not about facts, but about the future conditionally and without promises. Dr. Rosen proposed a 3-window model: 3 options for the end of the month, continue together, take another break, separate, and a set of actions for each. They wrote 2 items in each window. Nothing heroic. Schedule update, family budget plan, individual therapy for another month, convention logistics. Simple lines, but they cleared up the fog. On Friday, Josh gave him a hill workout. His legs were burning, but his head was clear. Daniel returned home, showered, sat on the couch, and opened the weekly accomplishments note. Locks changed, 3 workouts, finance paperwork in order, letter read, no late-night noises. He ticked them off. They were small things, but they added up. That evening, Jessica sent a photo of a note on her mother's refrigerator, a medication list, a schedule, a delivery phone number. "I started saying out loud what I'm taking on," she wrote. "I see," he replied. On Sunday, he called Jessica's parents and stopped by for soup. The kitchen was warm, and the TV was showing a football game with the sound turned down. His father was talking about the referee and the Giants' bad line. Daniel ate his soup, listened, and felt like he wasn't holding back. When he returned to the apartment, an envelope from the management company lay on the threshold, a water bill, and a notice about a heating inspection. Next to it was a small, unstamped card. "Dan, I hope you're well. If you need some guy company this weekend, I'm always up for it. Tom." It was their mutual friend. He smiled. Tom rarely wrote, but he was direct when he did. He placed the postcard on the shelf. The end of the month date was approaching on the calendar. He opened the three windows file and looked at the lists. He didn't add or remove anything. He understood. The next step wasn't paper. The next step was an honest conversation in a week. He turned off the light, set his alarm for an early run, and closed his eyes. The hallway was quiet, the camera in on-press mode. He knew the door to the past was locked with a new lock, open to what would happen next, with or without him. That knowledge was enough for today. The end of the month passed without any major events. Daniel had a Sunday talk appointment on his calendar. He woke up early, ran 3 kilometers, stopped for coffee, and returned home. The apartment was in order, a clean sink, neatly stacked towels, new keys on the hook in the hallway. He sat down at his desk and opened the 3 windows file. The blank lines no longer irritated him. He knew he had to choose one today. They met in the park near the library at noon. There was a cool breeze and leaves littered the paths. They walked for a few minutes in silence. Then Jessica said, "I have everything ready. I've collected the facts, the money, the schedules. Let's sit down and talk." They sat down on an empty bench. Daniel placed his phone face down. "Let's talk about finances," he began. "There's enough in the joint account. I made a summary table of payments for 3 months. I sent you the link. I didn't close the credit card you used for your parents. The limit remained the same." "I saw that. Thank you," she nodded. "I added a tab for my parents' medical expenses and set reminders for medication delivery." "Okay, now about us," he said. "I've written down for myself what I need to move forward. No contact with Alex, that's being done. Clear rules, we're following them. Work with a therapist, it's progressing. I have 3 points. But there's no trust. It doesn't come back just because we have plans and schedules. It comes over time, without surprises. I'm not there yet." "I see that," she said. "I have some counterarguments. I need you to speak up when you're feeling down, not just keep quiet. And I need you to stop immersing yourself in work for 2 days at a time like before. You've gotten better at that in a month. But I understand that habit alone isn't enough." They were silent for a moment. Jessica took out 2 envelopes. "The first is my schedule of one-on-one meetings for November. The second is the apartment agreement. If we decide to extend the break for another month, I'll stay with Mom, cover all the expenses for their house, and pay half of ours as before. If we decide to split up for good, I'll look for a place to rent closer to their area. I'm not pressuring them. I'm open to either option." "Thank you for sorting everything out," he said, placing the envelopes next to him. "I thought about what I wanted to say. Simple things. You're not my enemy, but right now, you're not my loved one. I don't feel angry all day like I did the first week. But when you're around, my body tightens. It's not my fault, it's a fact. And that means I'm not ready to come back. I'm ready to leave the door ajar, but live separately for another month, without promises for the end of the month." "Agreed," she said calmly. "I'll endure another month. I'll go to therapy, work, and help my parents. If you say no at the end of November, I'll accept you. If you say let's try, I'll have a list of specific steps." "I'm being honest," he replied. "I don't want to keep you hanging. That's why I'm being straightforward." "Thank you for your directness," she said. They turned the conversation to everyday matters. They discussed Thanksgiving. Her family was having dinner on Thursday. His friends were meeting on Saturday. "You're still invited to Thursday," Jessica said. "Even if we're apart now. Come if you want. I'll tell your parents in advance that you don't have to come, so there won't be any questions. Tell me. I'll give you an answer closer to the date." They decided to maintain one shared ritual in November, a Sunday 40-minute walk in the park. No discussion of third parties or difficult topics, just being together. The therapist suggested it, and they agreed. "One more thing," Daniel said. "The camera is by the door. I've set it to press and hold, and will delete the archived recordings in a week. I don't need it. If anything happens to the packages, we'll sort it out after the fact." "Good decision," she replied. On the way back, They stopped at a small hot dog stand. They bought some water. Jessica looked at him carefully. I want to say the word forgive again, without expectations. I apologize for the lies and for pretending like nothing happened. And I ask you to find the words of forgiveness for yourself too, if you can. You deserved better. I accept, he said. This is important, but that doesn't end it. The rest is time and action. Agree. They stopped at the notice board outside the house. Mark had posted a new notice about replacing the heating filters. Next to it hung a note saying, seeking a babysitter for the evening. Life at home continued as usual. I'll pick up another box of things today, Jessica said. I won't be there while you're gone. I'll let you know in advance when I arrive. Okay? You have the access code. She looked at him. Can we hug? Not like we're together. Like people who've had a difficult conversation. He thought for a couple of seconds. Briefly, he said. They hugged for a second without hesitation. They pulled away. He saw that her eyes had turned red, but her voice remained even. That evening, he texted Mike, "We've decided to take another month apart. No promises. I'm breathing normally." Mike replied, "I agree. See you on the track tomorrow." He set his alarm for an early run and put his phone away. The following week, life shifted back to normal. Daniel signed a new shift schedule at work and cut out Sunday nights. He made a dentist appointment, which he'd been putting off. He bought a new lamp for the living room because the old one was giving off a harsh light. He sent his battery less watch off to be serviced. Small issues kept coming one after another. In the evening, he read a book he'd abandoned halfway through a year ago. Jessica sent a photo of herself and her mother in the nutritionist's office, holding a nutrition plan. She captioned it, "Took the first step." He replied, "I see." In the second week of November, a letter arrived from the management. The building was collecting funds to replace the washing machines in the basement. He transferred his share and added $20 on top. Someone thanked him in the chat. Alex didn't appear in the chat. Mark only mentioned him in lists where technicians will be here on Tuesday. On Sunday, they walked their lap in the park. They talked about the weather, their running plan, and the fact that the nearby cinema was showing a classic on Wednesday. No one suggested going together. They stuck to the rules. In the third week, Josh increased his distance. For the first time in a long time, Daniel felt a pleasant tiredness that he didn't want to quell. He came home, took a shower, and wrote in his progress file, "I don't think about the cell. I think about the hallway less often. I think about myself more." At the end of the month, they met again at the library. Jessica held a thin folder. Inside was a if-together plan, new rhythms, a shared budget with limits, 2 days off a month without work, home-cooked dinners without phones, and a if-apart plan, how to divide the furniture, who gets the rug, how to close the accounts. "I'm not pressuring you," she said. "I just prepared it so we don't waste another month organizing it." "Thank you," he replied. "I'm not going to say yes or no today. I'll be honest. For the first time, I'm not afraid to listen to the silence in my own home. That's a lot. I need more time to figure out if I want to listen to the silence with you." "I'll accept it," she said. "We agreed on no deadline." They stood up and walked to the corner. A notice about the winter fair was posted on the school board. Daniel tore off his volunteer number. That evening, he placed it next to Tom's postcard. It was a small pile of things that showed he was moving. He turned off the light in the hallway, touched his new keys, and put the ring back in the key holder. The door was closed. He went to bed and realized that for the first time in weeks, he had fallen asleep without counting the steps behind the wall. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.